to take Gwenny with me. I would take you with 50 Gwennies, said I, although every one of them hated me, which I do not believe this little maid does in the bottom of her heart. No one can possibly hate you, John, she answered very softly, and I was better pleased with this than if she had called me the most noble and glorious man in the kingdom. After this we spoke of ourselves in the way people would regard us, supposing that when Lorna came to be her own free mistress, as she must do in the course of time, she were to throw her rank aside, and refuse her title, and caring not a fig for folk who cared less than a fig stalk for her, should shape her mind to its native bent, and to my perfect happiness. It was not my place to say much, lest I should appear to use an improper and selfish influence. And of course to all men of common sense, and to everybody of middle age, who must know best what is good for youth, the thoughts which my Lorna entertained would be enough to prove her madness. Not that we could not keep her well, comfortably, and with nice clothes, and plenty of flowers, and fruit, and landscape, and the knowledge of our neighbours' affairs, and their kind interest in our own. Still this would not be as if she were the owner of a county and a haughty title, and able to lead the first men of the age by her mind, and face, and money. Therefore I was quite resolved not to have a word to say while this young queen of wealth and beauty, and of noblemen's desire, made her mind up how to act for her purest happiness. But to do her justice, this was not the first thing she was thinking of. The test of her judgment was only this: how will my love be happiest? "Now, John," she cried, for she was so quick that she always had my thoughts beforehand, "why will you be backward, as if you cared not for me? Do you dream that I am doubting? My mind has been made up, good John, that you must be my husband, well, I will not say how long, lest you should laugh at my folly, but I believe it was ever since you came, with your stockings off, and the loaches. Right early for me to make up my mind, but you know that you made up yours, John, and of course I knew it, and that had a great effect on me. Now, after all this age of loving, shall a trifle sever us?" I told her that it was no trifle, but a most important thing, to abandon wealth, and honour, and the brilliance of high life, and be despised by every one for such abundant folly. Moreover, that I should appear a knave for taking advantage of her youth, and boundless generosity, and ruining, as men would say, a noble maid by my selfishness. And I told her outright, having worked myself up by my own conversation, that she was bound to consult her guardian, and that without his knowledge I would come no more to see her. Her flash of pride at these last words made her look like an empress, and I was about to explain myself better, but she put forth her hand and stopped me. "I think that condition should rather have proceeded from me. You are mistaken, Master Ridd, in supposing that I would think of receiving you in secret. It was a different thing in Glen Doone, where all except yourself were thieves, and when I was but a simple child, and oppressed with constant fear. You are quite right in threatening to visit me thus no more, but I think you might have waited for an invitation, sir. And you are quite right, Lady Lorna, in pointing out my presumption. It is a fault that must ever be found in any speech of mine to you." This I said so humbly, not with any bitterness, for I knew that I had gone too far, and made her so polite a bow that she forgave me in a moment, and we begged each other's pardon. "Now, will you allow me just to explain my own view of this matter, John?" said she, once more my darling. "It may be a very foolish view, but I shall never change it. Please not to interrupt me, dear, until you have heard me to the end. In the first place, it is quite certain that neither you nor I can be happy without the other. Then what stands between us? Worldly position, and nothing else. I have no more education than you have, John Ridd. Nay, and not so much. My birth and ancestry are not one whit more pure than yours, although they may be better known. Your descent from ancient freeholders, for 25 generations of good honest men, although you bear no coat of arms, is better than the lineage of 9 proud English noblemen out of every 10 I meet with. In manners, though your mighty strength, and hatred of any meanness, sometimes break out in violence, of which I must try to cure you, dear, in manners, if kindness, and gentleness, and modesty are the true things wanted, you are immeasurably above any of our court gallants, who indeed have very little. As for difference of religion, we allow for one another, neither having been brought up in a bitterly pious manner." Here, though the tears were in my eyes, at the loving things love said of me, I could not help a little laugh at the notion of any better piety being found among the Doones, or even in mother, for that matter. Lorna smiled in her slyest manner, and went on again. "Now, you see, I have proved my point. There is nothing between us but worldly position. if you can defend me against the Doones, for which I trow I may trust you, and worldly position means wealth and title and the right to be in great houses, and the pleasure of being envied. I have not been here for a year, John, without learning something. Oh, I hate it, how I hate it! Of all the people I know, there are but two, besides my uncle, who do not either covet or detest me. And who are those two, think you?" "Gwenny, for one," I answered. "Yes, Gwenny for one, and the Queen for the other. The one is too far below me, I mean in her own opinion, and the other too high above. As for the women who dislike me, without having even heard my voice, I simply have nothing to do with them. As for the men who covet me for my land and money, I merely compare them with you, John Ridd, and all thought of them is over. Oh, John, you must never forsake me, however cross I am to you. I thought you would have gone just now, and though I would not move to stop you, my heart would have broken." "You don't catch me go in a hurry," I answered very sensibly, "when the loveliest maiden in all the world, and the best and the dearest, loves me. All my fear of you is gone, darling Lorna, all my fear. Is it possible you could fear me, John, after all we have been through together? Now you promise not to interrupt me. Is this fair behaviour? Well, let me see where I left off. Oh, that my heart would have broken. Upon that point I will say no more, lest you should grow conceited, John, if anything could make you so. But I do assure you that half London, however, upon that point also I will check my power of speech, lest you think me conceited. And now to put aside all nonsense, though I have talked none for a year, John, having been so unhappy, and now it is such a relief to me—" "Then talk it for an hour," said I, "and let me sit and watch you. To me it is the very sweetest of all sweetest wisdom." "Nay, there is no time," she answered, glancing at a jewelled timepiece, scarcely larger than an oyster, which she drew from her waistband, and then she pushed it away in confusion, lest its wealth should startle me. "My uncle will come home in less than half an hour, dear, and you are not the one to take a side passage, and avoid him. I shall tell him that you have been here, and that I mean you to come again." As Lorna said this, with a manner as confident as need be, I saw that she had learned in town the power of her beauty, and knew that she could do with most men aught she set her mind upon. And as she stood there, flushed with pride and faith in her own loveliness, and radiant with the love itself, I felt that she must do exactly as she pleased with every one. For now, in turn, and elegance, and richness, and variety, there was nothing to compare with her face, unless it was her figure. Therefore I gave in, and said, "Darling, do just what you please, only make no rogue of me." For that she gave me the simplest, kindest, and sweetest of all kisses, and I went down the great stairs grandly, thinking of nothing else but that. Chapter 67